The vast armada of the alien empire had traveled for months, crossing countless light-years of empty space to reach the human star system. Their ships were enormous, and countless battleships with thick armor plates, cruisers bristling with weapons, and scouts darting ahead to gather information. Every warship gleamed cold and sharp under the distant starlight, a perfect display of power and control built over centuries of conquering worlds. The Empire was used to being feared. Their name alone made entire civilizations surrender without a fight. They crushed resistance swiftly, leaving behind nothing but silence and submission. Yet as their fleet spread out at the edges of human space, there was a strange stillness coming from Earth. No frantic calls for help. No desperate military actions, no signs of panic. Instead, the humans seemed calm. The leaders of the empires. Fleet had expected dread and chaos, but what they saw instead was something far more puzzling: smiles. Not just from civilians, but from the very people who should have been rallying defenses, the soldiers and commanders watching the skies. From the viewports of the massive flagship, the Empire's commanders saw Earth glowing softly in the distance, shining blue and green with swirling clouds and vast oceans. It was the jewel of this part of the galaxy, a home to a species they had written off as unprepared for anything more than extinction. Yet here they were, waiting, watching as if greeting old friends. The silence was broken when the Empire's communications officer sent the first message to the planet below, a cold and clear demand: surrender or be destroyed. The message echoed across radio waves and digital networks, reaching every corner of the planet. The Empire expected a flood of terror, threats, or a broken offer to negotiate terms. But instead, the reply was almost casual. A simple broadcast came back, not a plea, not a declaration of war, but an invitation. Humans welcomed the Empire to come closer, to witness their strength. This defiance shocked the alien commanders. How could a species so young and untested in galactic affairs possess such quiet confidence? The humans did not rush to hide their cities, nor did they scramble fleets to prepare for battle. Instead, large crowds gathered in public squares and observation centers, watching the stars with curiosity and calm smiles. As the Empire's commanders observed, human leaders held calm discussions, showing no signs of fear or urgency. Military bases on Earth were not locked down in panic, but instead were open, as if ready to greet visitors, rather than defend against an attack. The Empire's flagship captain frowned, ordering reconnaissance vessels to scan deeper. The sensors revealed something unexpected on the surface of planets. Massive installations were powering up. Structures hummed with energy, shimmering fields stretched across the land, and satellites realigned themselves silently into intricate patterns. It was as if the humans were preparing for something beyond a simple defense, something no one in the Empire had guessed. A low murmur ran through the alien officers as they watched human fleets moving with calm precision. Ships smaller than the Empire's war machines, but arranged in formations that suggested deep planning. Unlike any other species, humans did not panic or attack blindly. They studied the Empire's movements, waiting patiently. Back on Earth, the political leaders addressed their people with steady voices, explaining that fear would not serve them, and that they must face the coming moment with strength and hope. Their messages were broadcast live to the entire world, reaching even those in space stations and colonies beyond Earth's orbit. The humans' calm bravery spread like wildfire, stirring pride and resolve across every continent. The Empire sent a second message, harsher this time, warning the humans that resistance would be met with overwhelming force and total destruction. But once again, the reply was simple and direct: we will watch and wait. The alien fleet was baffled by this response. The word wait was almost a challenge, a promise that humans were prepared to endure whatever came next. Hours passed. Small skirmishes broke out at the fringes of human space, but they were met with surprising resistance. Now, the humans did not attack first. Instead, they used their technology to shield their worlds and protect their people, forcing the Empire to reconsider its assumptions. The calmness of humanity was not weakness. It was a quiet strength that puzzled and unnerved the invaders. The Empire's admirals began to realize that this war might not be as easy as they had believed. The smiles on the faces of humans watching the stars were not of fear, but of challenge.
And they were saying without words,
"Bring your worst," are ready, and so the stage was set. The Empire brought its armada, expecting to conquer a broken, frightened species. But what they found instead was a civilization unshaken, unbowed, and quietly confident, ready to face the storm that was about to come. The silence between the two forces was thick with tension, each waiting for the other's next move. Vast cold space between the fleets became a battleground of wills, where nothing could be taken for granted, and every moment held the promise of the unexpected. The response from humanity was unlike anything the Empire had ever encountered in its long history of conquest. When the Empire sent their first message, demanding surrender or submission, they expected a flood of fear, panic, or at least some sign of weakness. Instead, what came back was a broadcast so calm and confident that it unsettled every officer. Aboard the alien flagship, the words were simple but powerful. "We welcome you." No threats, no desperate pleas for peace, no promises of surrender. Just a clear, steady message that echoed across the stars, challenging the Empire's assumptions. The aliens, used to seeing fear or rebellion, found this silence harder to interpret than open hostility. There was no rage, no trembling submission, only a quiet defiance that seemed to say the humans had no intention of cowering before the might of the Armada. The calmness radiated from every human voice on the broadcast, speaking with a certainty that was unfamiliar to the Empire. This was not the reaction of a broken or weak species. It was the reaction of a people who understood something deeper, something the Empire had not anticipated. As the message reached every warship in the Armada, the commanders exchanged uneasy glances. They had seen many worlds fall quickly after the first warning, but here was a species that refused to blink. Meanwhile, on the planets below, the humans began activating technologies that the Empire's observers found difficult to identify. Entire cities seemed to come alive, glowing with strange lights and humming with energy fields that stretched high into the atmosphere. The Empire's scanners showed enormous structures rising from the ground, shapes twisting and changing like they had a will of their own. These defensive formations were unlike anything in the Empire's records, neither purely mechanical nor organic, but a mysterious blend of both. The humans were not hiding or preparing for a simple fight. They were raising a fortress that seemed alive, pulsating with unseen power. The Armada's ships watched in growing unease as the energy fields linked from city to city, creating a vast network of shields and barriers that shimmered with an almost ethereal glow. The Empire's leaders had prepared for an easy conquest, expecting the humans to crumble before their overwhelming firepower. Yet every scan, every observation, told a different story. The humans were not only ready, they were confident and unafraid. As the days passed, the Empire sent scouts and small attack squads to test the human defenses, but they were met with unexpected resistance. The humans' defensive systems absorbed and redirected energy attacks, while their fleets moved with surprising speed and coordination. The Empire's warships, large and powerful, found themselves outmaneuvered by smaller, more agile human vessels that struck with precision and then vanished before retaliation could begin. From the flagship, commanders watched as the humans used terrain and space to their advantage, hiding among asteroid belts and using natural gravity wells to mask their movements. The Empire's tactics, honed over centuries of war, seemed ineffective against these new methods. The humans did not fight with reckless fury. They fought with a calm intelligence that unsettled the invading force. It was as if they were not just defending their homes, but demonstrating a deep understanding of the battle itself. Back on Earth, the leaders spoke openly to their people about what was coming. They emphasized the importance of courage and unity, telling stories of past struggles that had forged humanity's spirit. They assured the population that fear was the enemy, and that the unknown could be met with hope and determination. These messages reached not only Earth, but also the colonies spread across the solar system and beyond, spreading calm and confidence where doubt might have taken root. The Empire's leaders sent a second communication, warning the humans that any resistance would be crushed without mercy. This time, the message was filled with menace and the cold promise of destruction. Yet again, humanity's reply was steady and sure. We will not surrender. We will not run. We will watch and prepare. The words held a promise of endurance, a refusal to back down that surprised even the most hardened commanders in the Armada. The alien soldiers whispered among themselves, trying to make sense of this strange defiance. Why would a species so clearly outmatched refuse to flee or beg for mercy? What gave them such confidence? The Empire began to suspect that they had underestimated humanity's strength, not just in weapons but in spirit. As human cities powered up their defenses, alien observers noted that the energy shields could repair themselves quickly after taking hits. The defensive structures seemed to adapt to incoming attacks, changing shape and function in real time. It was as if the humans had built living defenses that learned and grew stronger the more they were tested. These revelations forced the Empire to pause and reconsider their strategies. The invasion that had seemed assured was no longer a simple matter of overwhelming force. It was becoming a complex battle of wills, intelligence, and endurance. The humans were not just surviving, they were evolving under pressure, turning their world into a fortress that was both impenetrable and mysterious. The tension in the Armada grew heavier each day as the humans' silent defiance continued. Neither side fired the first major salvo, each waiting for the other to make a critical mistake. But the humans were patient, watching and learning, while the Empire's confidence began to waver. Commanders debated behind closed doors, questioning how to break a spirit so unyielding, and how to penetrate defenses that seemed almost alive. Yet no answer came quickly. The Empire's pride was challenged, and with it, the very foundation of their belief in their own superiority. A calm, steady smile on the faces of humanity's leaders and civilians alike was a quiet but powerful force, a shield against the overwhelming might of the invading fleet. It was clear that this war would not be decided by weapons alone, but by the determination and courage of a species that refused to be conquered. The Armada might bring all its power, but humanity's silent defiance was a signal that they would not go quietly into the night. Instead, they would stand tall, ready for whatever came next. The moment the Empire launched its first wave of attacks, they expected to see human defenses crumble under their superior firepower, confident that the overwhelming strength of their massive missiles and laser arrays would break through any resistance with ease. However, from the very first strike, it became clear that the humans were not like any other species the Empire had faced before. Every missile launched into human space seemed to vanish into thin air or be deflected harmlessly by invisible shields. Lasers, meant to scorch and destroy, were met with barriers of shimmering energy that absorbed and redirected their force. Each attack was countered with such precision that the Empire's commanders found themselves staring at the unexpected. A defense that did not merely hold, but adapted and improved with every assault. Human ships, though smaller and fewer in number compared to the Empire's grand battleships, moved with unmatched coordination and speed. Their pilots danced through space, weaving through barrages of enemy fire, striking swiftly and retreating. Before a counterattack could land, the Empire's traditional tactics relying on sheer size and overwhelming force began to falter against this fluid, unpredictable style of combat. Commanders quickly realized that humans were using a blend of technology and instinct, a fusion of cutting-edge artificial intelligence with centuries of hard-earned survival skills on a planet that demanded constant innovation. The AI systems in human ships could analyze enemy moves instantly, adjusting their defense protocols and offense strategies on the fly. Shields changed shape and intensity, strengthening where attacks were heaviest and weakening in places that needed to conserve energy. It was as if the ships themselves were alive, thinking and feeling the flow of battle in real time. It was not just technology that gave humans their edge. It was their ability to innovate mid-battle, to think beyond standard warfare. Humans used tactics that confused and frustrated the Empire's forces' feints, sudden retreats, unexpected ambushes, hidden in asteroid fields, and rapid shifts in formation that made targeting them nearly impossible. The Empire's sensors often lost track of human fighters, only to find them suddenly appearing behind their own lines. striking critical points before melting back into the darkness of space. This guerrilla style of space warfare was unlike anything the Empire had seen, a result of humans growing up on a world where survival depended on quick thinking, adaptation, and teamwork. The Empire's generals grew increasingly concerned as their fleets suffered losses they had not anticipated. What was meant to be a swift and decisive victory was turning into a long and exhausting struggle. Humans, far from being overwhelmed, seemed to thrive under pressure. Every time the Empire unleashed a powerful strike, the humans found a way to counter it, forcing the alien fleets to rethink their strategies. On Earth and its colonies, the commanders directed their fleets with calm determination, sharing data instantly through an advanced network that allowed every ship to learn from every encounter. This shared knowledge turned each battle into a classroom where tactics were refined and perfected in real time. The humans' resilience was not just in their defenses, but in their refusal to be predictable or static. Any other species, turning the Empire's arrogance into confusion and frustration. As the battle raged on, Empire's leaders began to acknowledge the truth they had long denied. Humans were not primitive or weak. They were a force to be reckoned with, a species whose strength lay not just in technology or numbers, but in their relentless will to survive and their ability to innovate under fire. This realization sent ripples through the Empire's command structure. Some advocated for even greater force, hoping to overwhelm human defenses with sheer numbers, while others warned that such tactics would only lead to more losses. The war was no longer about conquest alone. It was a test of endurance and intelligence. The humans' unseen power, their combination of advanced AI, adaptable shields, and unconventional tactics, was reshaping the battlefield and challenging everything the Empire believed about dominance. Every strike the Empire made was met with a calculated human response. Every move anticipated and countered, leaving the invading forces wondering if they were facing an enemy who could think several steps ahead. The stage was set for a conflict that would redefine the rules of war in the galaxy. A battle where innovation and resilience might prove stronger than overwhelming firepower. The Empire's frustration grew with each crushing defeat that once filled the grand halls of their flagship, now replaced by doubt and desperation. They had believed their Armada, fleet so vast and powerful it had subdued countless civilizations, would quickly bring humanity to its knees. Instead, the humans did not merely hold their ground, they advanced, turning the vastness of space itself into an ally. The human commanders exploited every asteroid field, every gravitational anomaly, and the shifting void between stars to outmaneuver the cumbersome alien warships. Their vessels, smaller but far more agile, danced through space with ease, weaving through debris and darting in and out of the Empire's firing lines. The alien ships, large and slow, struggled to adapt to this new form of warfare. The humans' weapons were unlike anything the Empire had faced before, sleek energy disruptors that disabled shields in moments, precision-guided missiles that hunted targets relentlessly, and long-range sensors that tracked movements with uncanny accuracy. As the Empire's fleet faltered under these unexpected tactics, the human commanders smiled knowingly, confident in the secret they had kept hidden until now. Their greatest weapon was not their ships or weapons, but a vast swarm of autonomous drones, hundreds of thousands of them, each small, yet deadly. These drones, controlled by sophisticated artificial intelligence, moved like a living storm through space. They slipped past the Empire's defenses, swarming over the massive warships like invisible locusts. The drones dismantled the enemy vessels piece by piece, disabling engines, cutting through armor, and neutralizing weapon systems with chilling efficiency. No amount of firepower could stop the relentless, coordinated attack of these tiny machines. The Empire's commanders watched in horror as their proud fleet, once thought invincible, began to crumble from within. Panic spread through the ranks as the swarm of drones tore apart battleships that had survived countless wars. The massive Armada was no longer the unstoppable force it had been. It was vulnerable, exposed, and bleeding. For the first time, the Empire was forced to reconsider everything it believed about war, strength, and intelligence. They had underestimated the humans, not just as fighters, but as thinkers and innovators. The idea of superiority that had once justified their conquest now seemed fragile and flawed. Was it possible that the humans, with their resilience and ingenuity, could not only defend their world, but also shatter the very foundation of the Empire's dominance? The question weighed heavily on every officer and soldier. Could the Empire survive the consequences of their own arrogance? As the humans pushed forward, reclaiming lost ground and striking deeper into enemy formations, the Empire's forces found themselves retreating for the first time in generations.
Ow.
The battle was no longer one-sided, and the tides of war had turned against the mighty Armada. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the once mighty conquerors faced a challenge unlike any before. Humanity's silent defiance had blossomed into a fierce and unstoppable force, reshaping the future of the stars themselves. The once mighty Empire, battered and broken, retreated from the human star system, their grand Armada, now a shadow of its former self. The pride that had driven them to conquer countless worlds had been humbled by a species they had dismissed as weak and primitive. Yet, despite the destruction and losses, the Empire was enlivened that survival held the seed of change. Humanity, standing tall amidst the ruins of battle, did not celebrate with triumph or vengeance. Instead, they extended a hand of cautious friendship toward their former enemies. This gesture was unexpected and unsettling to many across the galaxy who had expected bitter hatred or a brutal final blow. The humans offered knowledge and cooperation, a promise that future conflicts could be avoided through mutual respect and shared understanding. Their leaders spoke openly of lessons learned and the importance of unity in a galaxy filled with countless species, each with its own strengths and stories. The Empire's commanders, once steeped in arrogance and the belief that sheer power was the key to survival, now found themselves listening. They learned that true strength was not just in massive fleets or devastating weapons, but in adaptability, the ability to change and grow in the face of challenge. They saw resilience in the humans, a spirit that never broke even when faced with extinction. The humans' victory, forged not just through technology but through unwavering hope and calm determination, quickly became a legend. Across star systems, stories spread of a species that faced annihilation without fear, that smiled quietly, even as enemy missiles approached, and that refused to surrender their future. This story inspired others to believe that power was not simply about dominance, but about the unyielding will to survive and the wisdom to embrace change.
Ass.
The Empire's wounded fleets limped away, their leaders began to rebuild, but not as conquerors. They sought to understand the humans and their ways, recognizing that cooperation could bring more lasting peace than war ever could. Slowly, a new era dawned, one where the old boundaries of fear and hatred began to fade. The Empire and humanity, once bitter foes, found common ground and started working together. Scientists exchanged knowledge, diplomats negotiated agreements, and soldiers trained side by side to face threats no single species could withstand alone. The galaxy, watching this transformation, grew hopeful. The conflict that had threatened two terror worlds apart became the catalyst for unity, a reminder that even the deepest divisions could be bridged by respect and courage. Humanity's story proved that victory was more than conquest. It was about inspiring others to rise and face the unknown with strength and a smile. And so, with the Empire forever changed and a new alliance formed, a bright future awaited the Stars One, where peace was not the absence of war, but the presence of understanding and shared purpose across the vastness of space.